The mission in the work I do is to empower people to make informed food choices, to debunk myths about veganism and animal rights, and to give people the tools and resources they need to live according to their own values of compassion and wellness. I always say that I'm not asking people to live according to my values, I'm urging people to live according to their own values. And I believe that people really want to make this change. I really believe that people are desperate to make changes that reflect their values. The problem is we live in a culture that doesn't exactly make it easy for us to make the most healthful choices. We live in a culture that actually makes it really difficult for us to do so. With the culture, the way it's set up, there are so many myths and misconceptions about living compassionately and living healthfully, and those myths become legends for people. And I think though people really are concerned about certain things, and that's why I do what I do, and I'm happy to do it, I think these myths also wind up becoming excuses for people. And we wind up using these things as blocks that actually stop us from making the changes we really do want to make. What I want to talk about today are some of these myths. Starting with the nutrition aspects, that's obviously one of the big myths that we have. The first question that we get is, where do you get your protein? And what I really want to emphasize is the problem is not where vegans are getting the protein. The problem is that we've all been taught that we need to go through an animal to get to the nutrients that are in the plants, that the animals are eating, and that we're trying to get when we eat the animals. In other words, the nutrients we need are plant-based. The nutrients we need are not animal-based. When we skip the middle animal and go directly to the plants and get the nutrients we need from the plants, we get the phytochemicals, we get the nutrients that we want, the vitamins and minerals that we're looking for, we get the antioxidants, we get the fiber that people are just not getting. Fiber exists only in plant foods, it does not exist outside of plant foods. So we get all the good stuff and we skip all of the things that are harmful. So it's really problematic going through an animal, both from a health perspective, from, of course, a resource perspective, from an ethical perspective, and you can do this with every nutrient. People who come to me and ask me about protein, they always say, I tried being vegetarian, but I really needed protein. And I said, oh, well, how did that play out? What did that look like? Well, I don't know, I just really needed some protein. I said, well, how did it feel? Like, what did it feel like? I don't know, I was tired. And I said, okay, well, tired is not protein deficiency. What happened? Well, I was anemic. My doctor said that's iron. What is the protein deficiency? They can't tell you. Most people don't know what it looks like. Kwashiorkor is the scientific term for protein deficiency. We don't know anybody with protein deficiency. And the only time we really see true protein deficiency in developed nations is when they're not eating. So if someone's anorexic, or if they're quite literally so sick that they're not eating. We don't have diseases of deficiency. We have diseases of excess. All of our problems have to do with what we're getting way too much of, and that's, again, the animal protein, the saturated fat, the dietary cholesterol, the lactose, et cetera. Right, the lactose, I mean, that one is my favorite, that people have been taught that there's something wrong with them, that they have lactose intolerance, people who say they have this disorder now, right? Our bodies stop making lactase, which is the enzyme that helps us digest that milk sugar called lactose that's in all mammalian milk. So at a certain age, we're not even supposed to be consuming any animal's milk, including our own, and our bodies prove that because we stop making lactose. Lactose intolerance is not a disorder. Lactose intolerance is normal. Why do cows have a lot of calcium in their milk? Because they're eating the vegetables that actually have all of the minerals in them, in the grass. Ideally, 3 out of 4 cows are not actually eating grass. They're kept on dry lots, and so they're actually not getting the calcium through the plants. So what do you think they're doing to their feed? They're supplementing it. You could supplement your feed and skip all of this, right? You could take supplements, but I mean, ideally what I'm suggesting is we go to the plants, but the idea that we're going through an animal who's getting the calcium through supplements is incredibly resource intensive and unnecessary and ethically problematic as well, because you have to have a pregnant animal in order for her to lactate. We say cows give milk, like they come into this world ready to bestow upon us their nutritional gifts, right? We say cows give milk, we don't say we take, we certainly don't say we take their milk. We don't even say they produce milk, we don't say they lactate, we say they give milk. So we already have this notion that they're here for us. We take her baby, and of course, we do this for her. She goes through a whole cycle of impregnation and loss through her whole 4 or 5 years that she's allowed to stay alive until there's no longer a value in her life because she can't produce as much milk to make her profitable. So she's sent to slaughter. There is no such thing as a spa for used up dairy cows. There is no such thing as a slaughter-free animal agriculture system, period. So she's sent to slaughter, and now you have these offspring. And what was so striking to me when I first learned about all of this is these babies are simply incidental. They exist only because she had to be pregnant in order to lactate. So you have 50% of these animals who are males and 50% female. And of course, the males have nothing to do with an industry that exploits the female reproductive system. So they're useless and worthless. And they're killed right away for bob veal or after 16 weeks for, I guess, regular veal, milk-fed veal. And then, of course, the females go back into the same servitude as their mother. We are weaned from human milk, right? We stop drinking our mother's milk. The cows and the steer, they stop drinking their mother's milk. But when we're weaned, we're told that we now, no, you have to go continue drinking the milk of another species when the offspring of that very species has stopped drinking his mother's milk. It doesn't make any sense. And if I were to suggest that we consume our own human milk into adulthood, come on. Instinctively, we're like, no, we're not supposed to drink it into adulthood. That's disgusting. But we have no problem drinking the milk of another species. Why cow's milk? Why goat's milk? Why sheep's milk? Why buffalo milk in certain parts of the world? Why camel's milk? Why? What's so special about this group of animals, these animals' milk, that makes it so natural or healthy for humans to consume? Is there something specific in the milk that makes it so good for us? Why not hyena's milk? Hyena's milk is really high in calcium, really high in protein. Why not hyena's milk? Could it be that it has nothing to do with the nature of the milk and everything to do with the nature of these animals? That these animals are all herd animals, these animals are all vegetarian animals, and the only time they're dangerous is when you're actually trying to take their babies away. But otherwise, they're vegetarians, so they don't, their killing instinct is pretty subdued. A hyena, on the other hand, will probably kill you if you tried to take her milk, right? So the point is, that's how arbitrary this decision is. It has nothing to do with the milk itself. Nothing. It has everything to do with the nature of the animals. And so even if you look at the nature of the milk, I mean, we're talking about absorbing 30% of the calcium from cow's milk, whereas you're absorbing 50 to 60% of the calcium when you go directly to the kale, to the bok choy, right? So skipping the middle animal has health benefits, it has the ethical benefits, it has the environmental benefits, all of it. Fish is what we're taught we have to get omega-3 fatty acids from. Well, where do you think the fish are getting their omega-3 fatty acids from? From the algae, from the phytoplankton, from the plants, or from the plant-eating animals that the salmon are eating, because don't forget, those are carnivorous fish. So again, we could go directly to the ocean and deplete the ocean of life, which is what we're doing. We've wiped out salmon on the East Coast, and it's endangered on the West Coast. 90% of what people are eating when they eat salmon are farm-raised. So we can deplete the oceans, what we're doing, and still get the saturated fat and the dietary cholesterol and the animal protein, get some heavy metals thrown in there as well for good measure. Or we can do it through factory farming, same thing, the saturated fat, no different there. Or we could skip the middle fish and go directly to the plant sources and not go through all of this and do this dance to try and get what we really need properly without harming anybody. We can do that. Like, that is possible. Ground flaxseed is the most concentrated source of omega-3 fatty acids. You all know that. Walnuts, hemp seeds. I mean, there's so many wonderful sources of omega-3 fatty acids. So you can do this across the board. You can do this with protein, all of it. The nutrients we need are plant-based.